Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to episode number 118 of Paul Heyman's TNA. But as we saw last week, it's not going to be Paul Heyman's TNA for much longer as we begin the show with a recap of the monumental announcement that the man in charge made, citing the events of recent months as the reason. The man who has run TNA since January 2010 announced his intention to step down from the company at the end of the year. He will be leaving his position as the matchmaker. Impact Wrestling in 2012 will present a new era for the company, and Heyman confirmed that he has reached out to somebody who he feels can lead this company into the new year and into this new venture. Mauro and Taz react to the news as everybody has in the wrestling world this week. They say in particular discussion has been rampant within the TNA locker room what is next for the company throughout this entire week. They confirm that Paul Heyman will once again address the audience to open this week's show, and the man in charge makes his way down to the ring. It's a decent promo from Heyman to open the show at 78 rating. We do expect better than that usually. Once in the ring, Heyman says that despite how things have gone and the reasons he had for making the decision that he's made, he is so proud of what this roster has achieved in the 2 years that he has been associated with this company. All he's had to do is provide the platform, and some of the most talented men and women in the world have gone out and put on incredible show after incredible show for all the TNA fans. So despite there being some negativity about how he's run the company, he does still look at the positives. With one last pay-per-view under his stewardship, Paul wants to make this the best final resolution card that he possibly can, and with this, he confirms Alyssa Flash's challenge of Tara for the Knockouts Championship, as well as the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions facing the TNA World Tag Team Champions in a title v title match. American Wolves, the TNA Champions, versus the Briscoes of Ring of Honor. He also books a match between who he considers four of the most exciting talents on this roster, but pairings who have fractious histories to say the least. It will be Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe teaming up against Austin Aries and Tyler Black. Those teams will have to come together for a common goal because the winning team's members will each be in line to receive the first shot at the Impact World Championship. Whoever wins at Final Resolution, whether it's AJ Styles or CM Punk, will have to defend the Impact World Championship on the first ever episode of Impact Wrestling, that being a huge incentive for these two teams to get along. Coming out from the back as Heyman continues to speak, WGTT joined the man in charge, and Shelton Benjamin says that they may be two of the only guys in this locker room who aren't happy to see the back of him. Shelton says, of course, Heyman isn't perfect, but he does appreciate what he's done for the two of their careers. With that in mind, he wants to give Paul his final decision. They want adding to the title v title match. Wolves and Briscoes, both championships on the line. They want the chance to become the first Impact World Tag Team Champions. Heyman loves the sound of this, perhaps swayed by the almost compliment that he received from Shelton Benjamin, and that is made official. It will now be a 3-way tag team match at the pay-per-view, and that is a really good card coming together. The reason the two decided now to tell Paul Heyman this is because Charlie Haas is in action in the opening contest, where he is defeated by Robert Roode in 10 minutes and 32 with a payoff. James Storm and Shelton Benjamin both at ringside, neither man getting involved, and this is just a follow-up. They were the second and third, or the last two eliminations from the Thanksgiving Battle Royal. They were sort of jostling when Shelton Benjamin took both of them out, so we just booked a match between the two of them. A fairly contested, competitive match. After the match, with Beer Money heading up the ramp to celebrate, Charlie Haas is joined in the ring by Shelton Benjamin, and the American Wolves come to the top of the ramp with Steve Corino. Corino says that this advice might be coming a little bit late, but he'd incorrectly assumed that Benjamin would have been smart enough to challenge for the Evolve Championship or the X Division title, anything to stay away from the New Age of Honor. He says that Benjamin has no chance of winning any title in this company when it means having to carry Charlie Haas at the same time. As Beer Money reached the top of the ramp, Corino adds a sort of throwaway line: if Haas can't even hang with this guy, pointing at Robert Roode, then he's beyond help. James Storm and Robert Roode aren't happy with this, confronting the New Age of Honor members, but the Wolves and Carino walk off. They've said their piece. They don't need to get into anything else, but it's just them throwing barbs at whoever they want to and belittling Charlie Haas in the process. We then head to the back where Tyler Black is interviewed by Jeremy Borash, who asks him about his match in tonight's main event against Bryan Danielson and how he feels about teaming with Austin Aries at Final Resolution. Those two have had a little bit of friction in recent weeks, but Black says that his message tonight is the same as it is for the pay-per-view. Austin can continue his crusade against Team Angle from way back in October, and he can focus on Desmond Wolfe all he wants. That means that they have no reason to get in each other's way. Tyler Black is ready to focus on one of the best wrestlers on the planet in Bryan Danielson, and like he's told Jimmy Jacobs and the Kings of Wrestling, he doesn't want anybody getting involved tonight. Whoever else has issues with Bryan Danielson, whether it's Aries, Samoa Joe, or even CM Punk himself, this is Tyler's shot at the Dragon. Once it's over, he doesn't care what anybody does, but bell to bell, this is his business and his business alone, and he is desperate to prove himself in this main event. We then go into the second match of the night where the number one contender to the Knockouts Championship, Alyssa Flash, decisively defeats April Hunter with a Flash driver in 6 minutes and 13. Not much more to say about that as she stands tall. The commentators putting over that she's clearly ready to challenge for Tara. She's certainly a worthy contender, but will she become the next Knockouts champion? That's what we'll find out at Final Resolution, the final battle. We follow this up with an interview, Ada Okal speaking with Tara about the challenge of Alyssa Flash, but Tara is dismissing her as somebody who she's defeated multiple times in the past, and she sees next Sunday as nothing more than a formality. The last step towards her becoming the first Impact Knockouts champion. Storming into the set, Mickie James finally gets her chance to confront Tara for what she did at Turning Point. She's surprised that she can restrain herself, but first she needs answers regarding Christy Hem before she takes off Tara's head. So she's threatening her, but first she wants those answers before Tara can say anything. Alyssa Flash has now made her way back from ringside, and she tells Mickie James to back off. She needs to keep out of this until after Final Resolution. Whatever it is, they don't need this complicating. This is about Flash and Tara in 10 days at the pay-per-view. Flash then asks Tara why she thinks she has no chance, but by now Mickie James is fired up and she grabs Flash, telling her that she's going nowhere. This is about more than just a championship. Flash and Mickie going back and forth as Tara sort of slips away, avoiding the interrogation of the two women as they are just focused on one another. We lose heat to the Knockouts Championship storyline, but it's still a decent segment as we return for the third match of the night. Gail Kim and Sarah Del Rey teaming together against the two women who they fought off at Turning Point. They, a very unlikely duo probably just 2 months ago, now on the same page and working really well together. Gail Kim defeating Daisy Hayes with an eat defeat. Daisy Hayes the weak link, quite far behind the others. Sarah Del Rey doing well and Gail Kim doing okay. We've still got to work with her, get her back up to those levels. We've seen what Tara, Mickie James, Del Rey and even Flash on occasion are capable of getting in the ratings. Awesome Kong, of course. We need Gail Kim there quickly, and I think the way we're booking her and the way I'm going to continue booking her, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. We end the first hour with Madison Rayne interrupting the celebration of the unlikely duo Gail Kim and Sarah Del Rey, and she's complaining about all this BS that she's seeing from the two fakest women in the Knockouts locker room. She sees Gail being treated like a returning hero, despite everybody knowing that if Madison had been the one to face her at Bound for Glory, things would have gone very differently. Rayne would have stopped this return dead in its tracks, and nobody would have to put up with these two frauds pretending to get along. Del Rey's only stood next to Gail Kim because she could not beat her. It may be a couple of months late, but Rayne wants Gail at Final Resolution. Gail takes a microphone from ringside. She is more than happy to accept that challenge. So the third pay-per-view match since Gail Kim's return will see her go one-on-one with the Queen of the Mountain, another former Knockouts champion, Madison Rayne. We return to the second hour with an extremely short match, probably quite surprising because while the Young Bucks haven't been booked that strongly, they've also not been used as jobbers. At the start of the match, Larry Sweeney gets up on the apron and he's trying to give some strategy, something he's noticed, some kind of pointer to the Young Bucks. The Briscoes aren't having this. They leave the ring, drag him down from the apron and beat him up. Something we've not seen that much, but Sweeney getting the hell beaten out of him by the Briscoes. Magnus also at ringside tries to get involved. They run through them. This is all after the bell has rung, so the Briscoes running through the two members of Sweet and Sour on the outside, and then it's just the fact that they're so fired up, the fact they have that momentum. In 3 minutes and 44, including the skirmish on the outside, they completely run through the Young Bucks. So it does hurt the Young Bucks, of course, but the idea is that they were not prepared for this. They couldn't have seen this coming. The Briscoes on the very top of their game, and I feel like the Briscoes needed a statement victory. It's not that often that I'll do a match quite this short, but hopefully that adds to the impact of the Briscoes absolutely bulldozing through an unprepared Young Bucks and their Sweet and Sour stablemates, and I think they needed this. The Briscoes have been booked a little bit on and off. I've tried to give them promos, but then the promos haven't really delivered. They've been okay in the ring, but I think a huge win like that does just give them that little nudge of momentum that they need, since they're going to be in a marquee pay-per-view match. They've shown the Wolves and WGTT exactly what they're capable of, as well as the Impact audience. Hopefully this is the night where, in TNA's fans' eyes, the Briscoes arrived in the company. Hopefully that comes across as a big moment rather than just a burial of the Young Bucks. In the back, we see that Desmond Wolfe has requested to speak, addressing Tyler Black's words from earlier. Wolfe says that he believes Black when he says that he wants no outside involvement. We've seen that in the last few weeks, and he recognises that desperation to prove himself in Tyler Black. It's something that he's been through, so he can tell when it is genuine. However, Black knows as well as anybody, Austin Aries is a snake who cannot be trusted. For that reason, and given Austin Aries being so desperate to take out Wolfe, the last remaining member of Team Angle, then he challenges him to come and meet him in the parking lot before the main event. Just the two of them, nobody else. Wolfe will give Aries that perfect opportunity to fulfill that promise, take out the last member of Team Angle, and Desmond will get the chance to ensure that Austin cannot get involved in the main event. You can't say fairer than that. The ball firmly in the court of Austin Aries, and we'll see what he comes back with, or whether he shows his face in the parking lot before the main event. After footage of El Generico and Kevin Steen crashing through the stage is introduced by the commentators, Mauro and Taz confirm that Kevin Steen is not at the building tonight. He is recovering from that. A Blue Thunder bomb from El Generico to Kevin Steen from the stage. It's not something that you come back from straight away. However, after a challenge was made by El Generico to Kevin Steen for one last shot at Final Resolution, the X Division champion did send in a response from his home. Steen categorically rejects the challenge of El Generico, simply asking what is in it for him. Why would he give this man another shot that he doesn't deserve? He's beaten and embarrassed El Generico more times than he cares to remember. He's ready to move on to bigger and better challenges. Steen says that Generico has always leached off his success. Without Kevin Steen, there is no El Generico. And finally, he is cutting ties altogether. That stops now. El Generico fades back to the obscurity that he deserves, along with his buddy Colt Cabana, and Steen, unshackled, ascends to the top of this company. So a flat out rejection from Steen, but I don't think that El Generico is going to take that as an answer. We then get a chaotic 8-woman tag team match, and it really does kind of spill to the outside quite quickly. It's only 7 minutes, but it's chaos from the opening bell. Awesome Kong and Lindsay Kay end up brawling to the back. Kong going straight after Lindsay from the start of the match because of what she did to Aja Kong last week, crushing her skull, and that's why she's not here. That leaves it as a 3-on-3 match essentially. Hamada, Sarita and Taylor Wilde, Brooke, Velvet and Angelina Love, and the friction between Hamada and Sarita, just those two falling out and not being able to get on the same page, leads to Hamada walking out, so it is then essentially a 3-on-2, Taylor Wilde taken down, and Angelina Love is able to pin Sarita in 7 minutes and 17 with a lights out. So we do gain heat to one of the knockout storylines, the other one just advancing. Few decent performances, Sarita doing really well there actually, And again I'm noticing, to be fair, the Sarita Hamada storyline, 2 of them putting in really good performances, that shows that we're onto something with those 2 going into a storyline with each other. Awesome Kong doing well also, but it's a win that the beautiful people have needed after a few bad months for them, and it's sort of intertwining a few things. Of course, Hamada, the former partner of Awesome Kong, those 2 still on good terms, bringing a few different things together in the single match, but they have taken advantage of the dysfunction between their opponents, and the beautiful people and Brooke are able to regroup in the ring. Like I said, it's a much needed win for them. The commentators further the issues between Sarita and Hamada as Sarita comes round following the defeat. Taylor Wilde has by now followed her partner up the ramp, not in a sign of solidarity. She is asking her what she was thinking. She refused to tag herself in throughout the match, wouldn't tag Sarita in, a few different things that led to things boiling over. But of course, Angelina and Velvet won't care about any of that, as they indicate that they still hold ambitions to take back the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. We then head to the parking lot, where it's a disappointing segment. Desmond Wolfe is shown waiting for Austin Aries to arrive. However, instead of the man he called out, it is Steve Corino who meets him in the parking lot. Corino has a message from Austin Aries to Desmond Wolfe, telling him that none of this is really necessary, and Aries has respected the wishes of Tyler Black and left the building already. He doesn't want any trouble with his Final Resolution partner. Desmond Wolfe isn't buying that. We all know that Austin Aries is full of shit, but Corino tells him to look around. He won't find Aries' vehicle anywhere in this parking lot. As Corino says this, Brody Lee comes from out of the shadows, standing behind Desmond Wolfe. Wolfe, of course, sensing his breath on his neck or whatever it is, he turns around, ready to fight Brody, but he is caught unaware. This is another trap. The Wolves jump in from behind, the TNA World Tag Team Champions laying into Desmond Wolfe. A brutal and quick attack, which ends with Brody Lee dragging Desmond Wolfe back to his feet and hitting a choke slam onto the bonnet of a random car. Brody Lee and co ensure that Wolfe will be unable to offer backup for Bryan tonight. So if Tyler Black's wishes aren't respected by the New Age of Honor, Bryan has nobody to come and help him. So no chance of Wolfe backing up his partner tonight. And in a way, it puts a question mark over the match at Final Resolution, because Wolfe looks to be in a very, very bad state. We'll find out next week whether he can make it to the pay-per-view. So other than Brody Lee not coming out of it looking well, there was nothing particularly wrong with the segment, but I think just the guys in it aren't that overall. Their entertainment skills, whatever it was, it's a 69 rated segment, which advances the storyline but doesn't gain any heat to it. We then get the sit-down interview between AJ Styles and CM Punk, conducted by Mike Tenay, and we've been promoting this throughout the night as something that is must see. It features those 2 men, as I said, at Final Resolution, the final battle. The 2 men will compete to become the unified Impact World Champion, and delighted to see a 100 rated segment there. This interview is extremely heated, highlighting the diametrically opposed personalities of these 2 men. Each man speaks of their personal disdain for the other, with the theme of it just being 2 very, very different people from very different worlds. They are ready to go to war. As much as the focus has been on TNA and Ring of Honor, AJ Styles versus CM Punk is just as much about their individual rivalry. We know that in real life, these 2 guys never got along. AJ Styles reiterates that he has to win at Final Resolution. Punk says that he agrees with that. AJ has to win, which is why he cannot wait to be responsible when that doesn't happen. He can't wait to see what becomes of AJ Styles when Punk has the Impact World Championship and AJ Styles has nothing. Not only will he have no title, but he won't even have the company that he identifies so strongly with. Punk has already been responsible for ending TNA, and he'll be delighted to do the same to AJ Styles. So the psychological warfare continuing from Punk, both men improvising so well. I couldn't have asked for a better segment, of course, 100 rating. With it being unscripted, I didn't go too much into what they were saying. It's just something that I'd imagine most people watching know. AJ Styles and CM Punk from very different backgrounds hold very different beliefs. Not that we're going to go too much into that sort of stuff, but it's just the undercurrent throughout that these 2 men couldn't be more different, and that genuine dislike of each other, I think, would come across and has resulted in an absolutely fantastic segment before our main event, which is good. I'd say it's probably fair to only get an 84 because we don't get a satisfactory conclusion. The 20-minute time limit that has been in effect for the entire 2 years, we reach that, so it's a draw. An exceptional match. Bryan Danielson with a 94. He really has taken that Kurt Angle role, really, with Angle's future being up in the air, as we know, and Tyler Black with a really good 78. We've had to do a bit of a rebuild job on him because he had to lose the X Division title to El Generico. We also had Generico beaten by DQ the month before, so in trying to get El Generico over, it does of course hurt Tyler Black, who has been booked very, very strongly throughout the year and a bit that he's been with the company, but we're sort of building him back up now, and lasting 20 minutes against the former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, that's a very, very good look, of course, for him. After the match, despite both competitors being frustrated following the sound of the bell, once they return to the feet, there's sort of a mutual respect. When you've taken each other to the limit, that's always going to be present. They don't like each other, of course, they've been on different sides of rivalries, but as the two men go face to face, the commentators are sort of confused. Are we going to see a handshake between the two? We don't get the chance to find out, however, as Austin Aries jumps Bryan Danielson from behind. Tyler Black appears torn. He looks to be sort of considering whether to stop the attack, but with his bell-to-bell request fulfilled by Austin Aries, he leaves the ring and keeps out of it. He's smart enough to know that with Desmond Wolfe in the state that he's in, and now Bryan Danielson being laid into by Austin Aries, whether he agrees with that or not, the commentators remind us that there's an Impact World Championship shot on the line for the winner of their match at Final Resolution, and he's not going to stop something that is very clearly going to benefit him. Back with the focus on the ring, Tyler Black's gone now, and Austin Aries drops Bryan Danielson with a brainbuster, that move that just completely takes out whoever is on the receiving end of it from Austin Aries, and Aries stands tall to end the show. And it's again a moment for Austin Aries. We want to give him, he's been booked really well. He led Team New Age of Honor in the Bound for Glory match. He lost a couple of matches to AJ early on, but since then, if you look at his win-loss record, he's been booked very strongly. Wins over Jeff Hardy, taking out Kurt Angle, so he's got a lot of scalps, and we just need to capitalise on that now and make sure that he is a bigger part of the shows going forward. And 86, what do we expect? This is the level of show that we put on, quite simply. When you've got a 100 rated segment in there and a very strong main event, that's what you're going to get. We'll now try and follow up another brilliant show with a good episode of Evolve. And Evolve begins, as it often does, with a recap of the end of Impact, and Tyler Black is asked what he thinks about Austin Aries' actions, and he says that he doesn't care. He can do whatever he wants outside of Tyler Black's matches, as he established. All that matters right now and until Final Resolution is making sure that they are in the best possible position to win. So Tyler Black kind of aligning with Austin Aries' ideas here, because they have to be on the same page whether they like it or not. The opening match sees D'Angelo Dinero with his first ever match on TNA Evolve, a decisive victory over Douglas Williams, but we do book it so that there is some peril for D'Angelo Dinero. Douglas Williams, an excellent technical wrestler, a lot sharper is what we're trying to put across, really. Dinero still working off that ring rust, and Williams sort of using his technical ability to give Dinero some difficulty, but with a DDE, Dinero picks up the victory, and it's a decent performance from him. He cuts a solid promo after the match, putting over TNA Evolve. He's happy to be here, and he's even happier since he knows that there is an Evolve Championship. He's got his eyes on that gold, so a little bit of a tease that he may be in line to go after Jay Lethal. He's certainly got the record since returning that would justify a title shot. We then get some promotion for tonight's main event, which is a number one contendership match for the Evolve title. Amazing Red versus Chris Sabin versus Homicide, and Loki, who defeated Amazing Red a few weeks back, is giving some advice to him ahead of that number one contendership match. Madison Rayne confident that she will beat Gail Kim next Sunday. She's in action right now, so it's just a pre-match in-ring promo from her. Rayne with a decisive victory nonetheless with a rain check. She stands tall. We know she's ready to face Gail Kim at the pay-per-view. We then get a promo from Colt Cabana, and it's just a response to Kevin Steen's promo from Impact. El Generico will not be taking no for an answer. He will be on Impact next week. He's hoping Steen will be there too, because they're going to deliver the definitive challenge. He's desperate for that match at Final Resolution, and he's got something in mind that he thinks will make Kevin Steen accept that challenge. We then get a segment from something that happened backstage during Impact. Hamada and Sarita getting heated as they reach the backstage area, and Taylor Wilde had finally seen enough. She snaps, shouting at both women and storming off, so her two friends and her current partner and former partner not getting along, and Taylor Wilde has simply had enough of this. We then turn attention to the main event, but first see Jay Lethal and Maria in the skybox. We will get footage of their wedding on Impact. It happened during the last week. They'll be off on their honeymoon after tonight and will be back next Thursday, but we're going to see on Impact what went down at their wedding. Amazing Red defeats Chris Sabin and Homicide in 13 minutes and 49. Red pinning Homicide with a quick cradle. Sabin carrying the match with an 81, so it might be a little bit unfair here. When the machine guns come back, we're not going to have to worry about what happened in this period too much. Andy's not involved in the fall. Whatever Loki said to Amazing Red obviously helping. A good performance from him, and he becomes the number one contender next in line for Lethal's title. But when we go to the skybox, we see that Lethal's not even paying attention. Him and Maria having a great time, and they're not concerned at all about Amazing Red. It's a decent show. I didn't expect too much. A 61 is a little bit disappointing, to be fair, for that main event. I didn't even spot that, and there's not that many strong segments on the show overall. A 66, and I am gonna, for 2012, when we actually change this from TNA Evolve to Evolve Wrestling, we will change it so that this is the B show, I think. Not only does it mean that we're not losing popularity after gaining popularity from these incredible shows we're doing, it also just gives that little bit more freedom that you can kind of put anything in the main event and you have to worry less about the ratings, even though I still kind of try to put on matches that aren't going to be completely awful, whereas in future I can just shove anything on there basically. But that's not to disparage Evolve, because it can be interesting sometimes to have the less over and less utilised people given more chance to shine. That's the idea anyway. This week done, the go home show to the biggest pay-per-view we've ever done coming next week, so hopefully you'll want to join me for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.